Welcome back to chokitablemedia. It has been almost a week now that news has been circulating within the polity. I'm talking about Nigeria here. And the news actually emanated from the United States of America, particularly from Donald Trump's administration and a senator called Ted Cruz from the United States of America, talking about Muslim killing Christians in Nigeria, talking about genocide of the attempt of Muslims in Nigeria to wipe away the Christian community or the Christian folks in Nigeria.
There was no Truth Nigeria. There was no media organizations. And you know what was happening to those people? To Lawrence and Masara Kim and all of them? The journalists sitting in the big capital cities, the big cities and in the capital, who were taking the line from the government and didn't have the courage or the integrity or the professionalism or the character or the motivation to go to those frontline villages. They just bought the line from the government that it wasn't really happening, and they bought the line from the U.S. State Department that this is nomadic tribesmen being forced to move from climate change. The Fulani are not really terrorists. Oh, the fact that they're Muslims got nothing to do with it. Because they're nomadic tribesmen, they're looking for other land. They're looking to go somewhere, and that's forcing them to clash with the Christian villages. Nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. That is just an example to you of how climate has been used as a scam. I mean, it's not just fake. It's much worse than that. All of these systems that are being implemented that are so profoundly dishonest, they're systems of control. How do we control the people, control the information and the narrative, and then have that as cover to do whatever it is that we want to do, which, by the way, is to go into Christian villages and not only annihilate people. I mean, in one of the recent attacks that Truth Nigeria has reported on, putting women and children inside cages in the market and burning them alive. I mean, I was sitting down to dinner in my hometown in Texas one Friday night years ago. My husband was with me. It was when we were trying to get the sound of freedom was being blocked because people didn't want child trafficking to be a conversation everyone was having. And we were doing our best to help get that movie put out. And I got a video. I showed it to my husband as we sat down. He couldn't eat. And it was a young 18-year-old girl from Nigeria who was pulled from one of the villages. And as they were slicing off her head, they were digging her baby out of her tummy. And she was well advanced in pregnancy. That's the reality of what, when you put those numbers up and you go before your colleagues in Congress and you put those numbers forward, that's what it means in human terms. I mean, Lawrence once was calling Doug and myself. He's sitting in the back of a meat wagon on the bodies of his friends and neighbors with malaria. Remember, after that he went out with malaria for weeks. I mean, these the courage of the people who are on the front lines reporting this cannot be overstated. But the challenge that they face is that the media itself denies the reality that they see and report on with their own eyes and ears. I mean, that's without conscience. Honestly, I stand before all of you in the National Press Club of the United States of America, the most powerful free nation on earth, where we have First Amendment rights. And I cannot say strongly enough to the press corps, do your job. Do your job. Because we are supposed to be the inspiration and also the safety net for journalists everywhere. It is truly without conscience that you can witness the execution of people and have it denied because journalists are too lazy, too corrupt, too stupid, too cowardly to stand up and tell the truth. That is without conscience. And, we have to stop being afraid of what people will say to us. We have to stop allowing those who tell the truth to be punished and those who lie to be rewarded.
I try to think about this. Being a Nigerian myself, thinking deeply and ruminating and try to see if this accusation is true, and if there's anything like genocide going on in Nigeria being perpetrated by the Muslim community or Muslim folks, to my conclusion, I cannot admit that Muslims are killing Christians in Nigeria. It is fallacy, it is false. And pushing the narrative further like this from the United States of America calls to question, and we, the people, should have to examine this accusation and know what is true and what is false.
As the federal government continues to react to international condemnation of alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has cautioned against portraying Nigeria's security crisis along religious lines, insisting terrorists and bandits target citizens indiscriminately, regardless of faith. Akpabio issued the warning during Thursday's plenary while contributing to a motion on alleged religious persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Akpabio questioned how anyone could differentiate victims by religions after attacks, emphasizing that violence affects all Nigerians equally.
If you look at what is happening in the Southeast, predominantly Christians, most of those that are killed in the Southeast, including the late husband of our demised icon, Dora Akunyili, the way the man was shot dead and everything, will you come and ascribe that to religion? I'm talking about what IPOP is doing. You see brothers killing brothers. Okay, so the sit-at-home that is going on Mondays in the Southeast that has almost crippled the economy of the Southeast. Is it targeted at Christians or Muslims? So Nigeria has complex security situations, and we should actually go out there and educate people, because the moment they bring sanctions to breed poverty, poverty knows no religion. So for me, engagement will be the best. So when we go into executive session, we can decide to set up a small ad hoc committee to go to the United States of America and engage our colleague parliamentarians there. And then to also educate them. Because if you see what these people are doing, most of them are outsiders. When they come and start spraying bullets from GP, what do you call it, or they throw rocket, they are not throwing rocket into the crowd targeting a particular religion. They are killing Nigerians. I don't know who will now go and sit down and bring out maybe the dead bodies and say, this one is a Christian, this one is from this family, this must be a Muslim. So we are facing a situation whereby these terrorists are trying to terminate the lives of Nigerians. No, I was about to look at your side, because I think a lot of herbalists have also been killed in the. Is there anybody that is opposed to this motion? Okay.
All right. Every Nigerian life matters, including herbalists, according to Godswill Akpabio there. Now, that was Senate President Godswill Akpabio arguing that, framing terrorism as a conflict between Christians and Muslims is misleading and, only deepens divisions among Nigerians. The motion sparked intense debate on Thursday as lawmakers weighed national security narratives against reports of targeted attacks on religious communities across various states. Well, Akpabio's comments, however, have garnered several reactions on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and of course, X, formerly known as Twitter. And I'll start with an X post. This person wrote, Nigerians have been killed, both Christians and Muslims. This is a fact. However, it is unnecessary to constitute a delegation that would travel to the U.S. to tell the full story. It is just another means to misappropriate taxpayers' funds. The truth will be told one day. Imagine Rufai Ayo, they want to send a delegation to the United States of America.
Is that not what they do?
Yes. And let me take another post that this person wrote. don't forget that this same Senate screened and cleared someone who forged his certificate to be minister. Let's hope that their U.S. counterparts will not tell them, what for? What are you doing here? That's the question. Gradually, Nigeria will have external intervention since the internal ones have failed to yield results. And, one of the comments Godswill Akpabio made about, IPOB and the Southeast killing Nigerians, which, also is a fact. And I'll take a reaction from Facebook. This person posted on Facebook saying, your opinion is acknowledged, but we have to set a boundary line between secessionists and jihadists. Once you know the root cause of this insecurity, you will realize the Christians suffering the crisis. Because, he also talked about the fact that, these terrorists, when they go out to bomb a community, do we go out to pick out the find out whether they are Christians or Muslims being born. But you also know that the Christian Association of Nigeria has also debunked the federal government's claim about whether or not, Christians are being killed and all of that. I'd like your thoughts. Let me start with you, Ayo, since I started with you, Rufa, about Godswill Akpabio even trying to send a delegation to the United States to, sit with them and let them know what really is going on. Because he also touched on how sanctions would affect Nigeria eventually if this happens.
I think that's the most what Nigerians are worried about the most.
Correct.
Because of the consequence of being listed as a country of particular concern. And this is the highest condemnation by the United States on countries that are seen to not tolerate or promote religious freedom. Nigeria was listed or designated in 2020 and were removed from that list in 2021. And like you mentioned, it can bring economic sanctions and some aid being pulled away from the country as a way to serve as a measure to deter this. But let me talk about Senate President Akpabio, the uncommon senator, asking that he might put together a team of senators to go to America. For what exactly? Let the facts speak for themselves. Instead of spending Nigeria's hard-earned money and our resources to take our senators abroad, can we fix some of the challenges that he himself highlighted in trying to justify that it's not a religious targeted attack? He talked about issues around people being killed, citing the example of Professor Doyo Akinyele's husband, very unfortunate one there. He talked about what happens in the Middle East and people being bombed. He talked about IPOB sit at home. These are real issues of concern, of security, whether or not they are religiously motivated. Can we sit down in our country and fix those issues rather than becoming a laughing stock in the world? And so a better solution would be for the Senate to come together and prefer or take a deep action, a specific action against violence and acts of terrorism in Nigeria against any Nigerian citizen. I think it's quite a shame as well, Oji, that it took the American Congress speaking about this, or people, whether it be the report that was done, to highlight how bad the security situation in Nigeria before we all begin to talk about trying to save the image of Nigeria and trying to talk about these issues when we already know that we have a problem in security in the nation. Please don't spend taxpayers' money going abroad. Let us fix the issues here and the facts will speak for themselves.
No Muslim is killing Christian in Nigeria. No, it was the terrorists that are killing people generally in Nigeria, or the killings in Nigeria is actually not only done to the Christian folks. It is actually done to everybody in Nigeria, because the terrorists, which we believe emanated from our tribe, from a tribe in Nigeria called the Fulani tribes in Nigeria, are the one perpetrating this evil. If you go down in history or you check properly, you will see that. I'll note that these guys also go into the Muslim folks' houses and they kill the Muslims. They kill the Christians. They kill those people, the animists. I mean, people that believe that don't believe that there's actually anything they call God in line of the Christian and the Muslims. So we need to be very careful before we push this kind of narrative or support this narrative that the Muslims in Nigeria are the one killing Christians. No, I disagree completely, because the killings that are happening is actually happening from the hands of a tribe from the northern part of Nigeria called the Fulani tribes. The Fulani tribes are not only in Nigeria, they are all over Africa too, or the West Africa, so to say. There we find a lot of Fulani tribes also. So in Fulani tribes, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have non-believers as well in lines of Christian and the Muslims. So you cannot say, or the United States of America cannot say, it is the Muslims that are killing the Christians in Nigeria. No, it is fallacy. And I want you to watch this video and think about the complaint or ruminating about the complaint of this guy that, was bold enough to come up on here to explain freely what he felt and why, he believes that the Muslims are killing Christians in Nigeria. But the Nigerian army will have to be called to answer to the question that this guy raised in this audio of his, or this video of his, whereby he's accusing the Nigerian army. So now I'm bringing in the angle of the Nigerian army into this, or the Nigerian force into this conversation. So if you bring in the Nigerian force, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force into this conversation, that means you have to bring the Nigerian government also into this conversation, because these organizations belong to the government, and this organization are saddled with some responsibility which the government gave to them. So if they fail to do their duty, they fail to do their job, we should not bring this matter onto the doorstep of the Muslim or the Christian or something like that. Say the Christian are killing Muslim or Muslim are killing the Christians. The Nigerian government are supposed to stand up and direct the forces in Nigeria are the one to be blamed. And those people in power right now should also think about it. If they actually want Nigeria to be in existence until another 20, 50, 30 years, they should rise up and do something about this, because the blame being laid on the doorstep of Muslims is not the right thing to do. Blaming the Christian is not the right thing to do. I think the governments are lacking in their responsibility to fix the security in the country, because if this keep going on and it keeps going on like this, then that means Nigeria will become a failed state, which some people have actually agreed that Nigeria is a failed state. So the angle of the tribe, the angle of religion, and the angle of the government is where I want us to start to tackle this problem. So enough of the blame game and enough of following what the United States of America and their senators are pushing, or the narrative they are pushing forward. For me, I see a kind of a way to destabilize Nigeria, a kind of way to destroy Nigerian nation. And the people in power today should be very careful about this, to rise up and provide security for everybody in the land. Christian, Muslim, it doesn't really matter what type of religion or tribe that you come from. But the government are lacking in their responsibility by not protecting everybody in the land. And that is my own submission.
Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you won't miss out any of our latest videos.